It's one of the biggest refugee crises of recent years. 2 million people forced from their homes because of a bitter civil war. Now Londoners are being called on to help the humanitarian effort. The conflict has been going on for 4 years in Africa's largest country, Sudan. Darfur is in the west, where more than 200,000 people have been killed. A charity has announced a concert at Wembley Arena to raise awareness of the problems. One of its stars, Sami Yusuf, has been to the area to see the conditions there for himself. He's from West London, and while he's not a household name here, he's sold millions of records in Africa and Asia. Asad Ahmad went with him to Darfur, one of the few Western television journalists to film inside the camps.
These children have never known what it's like to live life without the feeling of fear. And for the elderly, peace is an increasingly distant memory. On the border of Western Darfur and Chad lie scattered refugee camps filled with families whose survival depends on food packages paid for by money from Britain. Even long queues, intense heat and hungry stomachs don't cause people to push or grab the small amounts of food on offer. Coming to take a look at the situation in Darfur is Sami Yusuf from West London. He's sold millions of albums and is the star of the first ever Muslim-style Live Aid concert at Wembley Arena later this month. The aim of the concert is to help people like Khadija and her children. She's lost her husband and she hasn't registered herself at the refugee camp. She's instead surviving on handouts from other refugees. Refugees who've been raped and whose relatives have been murdered.
Now that I'm here, of course it makes the world a difference, because now I know what's happening. I have an understanding of what's happening with the locals. I still don't have a clue with what's happening with the politics, but I can see that they're suffering here.
For all the stories of death, destruction and rape that we hear here, there are dozens more that we don't. This is considered one of the smaller camps in West Darfur, with only about 1,700 people here, and they're relying on foreign aid in order to feed them and bring some relief from what is absolutely intense sun. And yet there are thousands more people outside the camp waiting to come in and get some of that aid, and that number is quickly increasing. A few miles away, hundreds of food packages are made. It may look like a lot, but don't forget, there are nearly 2 million refugees in Darfur, and this would barely feed a few thousand. But every grain is valuable, as it keeps starvation away for a few more days. Water too is rare. This basic drill searches hopefully for that bare essential for life that we all take for granted. We waited with the children, but the ground remained dry. Back at the camp, Sami Yusuf decides to use a language of song to break down the barrier which has brought him from West London to West Darfur. For the young children at the camp, it's a rare but welcome distraction from reality.
When you see the faces of these kids, you see their eyes, and you look into their eyes, and you see the innocence and the longing, if you like, and you look at them, and you can feel that they're enjoying it.
The concert in London in 3 weeks' time will try and raise awareness for what's happening here, while the British government pushes for a peace deal. Meanwhile, the UN has rejected the term genocide to describe what's happening in Darfur, but they agree that here lies a humanitarian crisis on a catastrophic scale. Asad Ahmad, BBC London News, in West Darfur.
Well, Sami